Dr. Dave decided he'd do a review on my audit videos and give his opinion on how he figured I should act in public according to policy, not law. Even editing words out like pissed off, this guy doesn't seem to even appreciate the First Amendment of the Constitution. He considers those that exercise their rights as frauditors and does his best to destroy and vilify channels who are new and just looking to film what they do out in the public and exercise their rights. I don't know who this guy thinks he is. I mean, he's wearing an American flag on his hat that he seems so happy in the photograph about. If you just want an idea of who this guy's supporters are and what they believe in and how uneducated they are in regards to the Constitution, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, etc., the Bill of Rights, let me give you a few examples. I loved throwing away complaint forms. So this is in regards to the video I did where we did a Second Amendment audit at the Mingo Valley Division. And people were commenting in another large auditor channel's video who featured this video of mine, and were saying things like police just don't want to give out complaint forms. And I don't know, did they just not give them out, or did they refuse to give them out? Do they throw them away? I mean, this comment here makes it, kind of makes me wonder. Where does it say in the First Amendment that they have the right to video in public by living in AZ 523? Well, when you learn what citizen press means, you'll understand. Jose Luis Rodriguez says, "What matters is other people's rights, not just yours. Am I not one of the people?" From Rich Lau we have, "But as we all know, policy is not law. So according to the frauditor, no official needs to identify themselves." Wrong. Police officers are required to identify themselves, but the security guard's badge also clearly said City of Tulsa on it, so he was clearly a city employee, aka a public servant. And yes, if you are a public servant, you are supposed to identify yourself when asked by a member of the public. And he says, now if police dictates that they have to identify themselves, then policy will dictate that they cannot film inside. This guy needs to learn the difference between policy and law. If a public servant walked up to me and asked me for my identification in the capacity that they're a public servant and I'm a private citizen, that wouldn't fly. It's different the other way around. Public servants have to identify themselves. Sunny Days says, like all jackwagons, these camera boys have rights to film found somewhere in the Constitution. Please tell me where that is found. I do not want to hear about amendments to the Constitution, but the Constitution itself. From Joe Crispy. In every security job that I have worked at before, I have never read a policy or rules that I have to identify myself to anyone. So these frauditors are misguided. Well, it's not my fault that you have never read a policy of a security job that you have had. But then again, maybe he's never worked for the city and therefore doesn't understand that if you are a public servant, it's your responsibility to understand the policy and follow the policy and identify yourself when you're asked for your information. Feel Free says, does it actually say somewhere in the Constitution, quote, if you can see it, you can film it, unquote? I'm betting no. Haunted Floating Eye says, I really don't think freedom of the press has anything to do with recording, because by the logic they're using, if I deny them answers to their questions regarding their story, they can claim I'm infringing on their freedom of press. It's about publication. You're free to publish whatever you want without repercussions. Media still has to go through the proper channels to get the content. Oh, man. These people really need to go read the First Amendment, man. They need to go just type in First Amendment books regarding citizen press and filming in public, and they could probably inform you. Go talk to your police about it. Docs Jeff 2020 says,
there needs to be a nationwide mandate. When someone shows up with cameras or cell phones without being a media source with credentials and without prior permission, they can be arrested for felony trespassing.
Drew Pabian says, if you get to ignore the signs, then he gets to ignore supposed policy. From Little Dickens we have, mostly